Hey guys, thank you for bearing with us. I know there hasn't been videos the last couple of weeks. We've been extremely busy and gone for a little bit of that time. And we've been in the book of Job for the last couple of weeks. So I wanted to share a special word with you today regarding what we've been reading on Job. And I call it Consider This. So I read the book of Job every year in the month of January, doing this 365 Bible in 365 day challenge. And because I spend each year reading the book of Job in its entirety, I decided last year that I was not going to just rush through it like I normally do. I was going to savor it and chew on it and think about it and learn from it, and not just try to get through it quickly. And right away, with Job 1:1, I felt convicted. It says, "There once was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil." Wow. Wow, right? A full-grown man who had lived a blameless life. And Job shunned evil. And not only have I not shunned evil, sometimes I've invited evil into my life with the choices that I've made. And just reading that first verse, I knew immediately that God was going to allow my eyes to be opened if I let him and if I didn't give up. And again, this was last year, just 1 year ago, when I decided I was really going to savor this. And I was determined that I was going to let God speak down into the depths of me and just infiltrate all of my hidden crevices with his divine truth. And about the time that I reckoned to myself that I had the courage to handle whatever God was going to reveal to me, I get to verse 6. And it says, "One day, the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser, Satan, came with them." Satan, y'all, Satan. He shows up, and right there I wanted to cancel this deep dive. I wanted to skip ahead to another book of the Bible that didn't deal with evil and Satan's schemes and his lies. And then it dawned on me, it's the Bible. God clearly lays out all of the deceiver's plans and his traps and his obstacles and his ploys over and over again in every book. So I couldn't just skip over Job. I couldn't just skip to another book of the Bible. I needed it, and we all need it. So I kept reading. And guess what happened next? God and Satan have a conversation about Job. That's right. God starts by asking Satan, "Hey, where'd you come from?" And Satan says, "Well, I've been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on." Then God asks Satan another question. "Have you considered my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil." That's Job 1:8. Wow, what a compliment. If there was ever a perfect compliment to be said about somebody, that was it. But you know what? Since we don't know all the conversations God has had about us, maybe he has said things like this about us before, even greater things than this before. As God's children, he has the prerogative to brag on us anytime he chooses. Consider this. Just take a moment and consider God in heaven talking to the members of his heavenly court about you. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. I have. I know as a parent, I've gone to work, I've bragged on my kids, I've shared on social media the accomplishments that they've made, and I am quick, I'll tell you buddy, I am quick to pull out my phone and show pictures of my 4 children. But consider for a moment God telling the members of the heavenly court about you. Now, have you ever noticed the reactions you get from casual acquaintances in regards to your kids' successes compared to the reactions you get from family members and close friends? Man, family members and close friends, they eat it up. They eat it up. They're just as proud as you are. They will take that information, that good news that you shared, and they'll share it with others because they're excited. You made their day. They loved hearing about your kids and what they've done. But on the flip side, yeah, we've all been there. There are people who hear our stories about us bragging on our kids or whatever, and they just kind of shrug it off. Or they have a story to top your story about their kid. And that's exactly how Satan answered God. That's how he answered God's question. So in verse 9, Satan replied to the Lord, yes, but. Satan says, yes, but. The accuser's about to accuse y'all. So you ready for this? Let's read what chapter 1, verse 9 says. Satan replied to the Lord, yes, but Job has good reason to fear God. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. And God replies to that accusation with, all right, you may test him. Consider this. God knows his children. If you belong to Christ, you are a child of God, and he knows you. And if you have not come to Christ yet and made a decision for Jesus, God still knows you. He created you. He made you. But one thing that brings me peace, God knows us. But when he allows us to be tested, Satan has to ask permission. Wow. You see, God knows me. Ginger and Nicole Graves. God knew how I would react as a 20-year-old when I was tested. You see, in 1996, I believe that there was a conversation about me in the heavenly courts. I believe that the members all showed up and God asked Satan where he was coming from. And Satan said the same as usual. I've been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. And I feel that God asked him, what did you see? And I feel that Satan answered, I see this young lady who just graduated college. She got engaged. She says she's going to either be a missionary or a chaplain in the Navy. She looks happy. She's praising you, God, for all you have done in her life. And she has declared that she wants to dedicate her life to you and share the gospel message around the world. And I feel like God answered. He said, oh, you're talking about my servant, Ginger. I know the plans I have for her. I have plans to prosper her and to not harm her. I'm going to give her a hope and a future. Her dad's a pastor and my servant. She has been raised in a godly home. For generations, her family has known me and worshiped me. I've blessed her fiance with a great mind, incredible mind. He and his family also worship me and know me. Ginger's my child. And I feel like Satan replied, yes, but. You've always put a wall of protection around her and her family. That's why she praises you and wants to proclaim your greatness. But reach out and afflict her or her loved ones, and she will surely curse you, God, to your face. This was in 1996, sometime after March of that year. And I feel that God then said to Satan, all right, you may test her. And buddy, I'm here to tell you, Satan didn't wait. He did not wait. In May of 1996, my very best and longtime friend died in a car wreck. In June, my fiance was in a motorcycle wreck that left him paralyzed, never to walk again. In September, a childhood friend whose family did a lot of life with my family, he was shot and killed. In October, my grandfather on my dad's side died. 6 weeks later, his wife, my grandmother, died. And to finish out 1996, at the end of December, my brother found out he had cancer. So let's look back at Job. First, in verse 14, a messenger arrived at Job's home and told him, "Your oxen were plowing with the donkeys feeding beside them when the Sabaeans raided us. They stole all the animals and killed all the farmhands. I am the only one who escaped." Second, in verse 16, another messenger arrived with the news. "The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and all the shepherds. I am the only one who escaped." A third messenger came in verse 17 and said, "3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camels and killed your servants. I am the only one who escaped." A fourth messenger arrived in verses 18 and 19 and told Job, "Your sons and daughters were feasting in the oldest brother's home. Suddenly, a powerful wind swept in from the wilderness and hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed, and all your children are dead. I'm the only one who escaped." Everything gone. Boom, 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 boom. Hit after hit after hit. In Job's response, in verses 20 and 22 of chapter 1, Job stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground in worship. He said, "I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord." In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. Wow. I've got to pause right here. When I remember back to 1996, I went into that year not knowing it was going to begin with Jonathan and I getting engaged and being on top of the world. To then, everything crashing down around me while the hits kept coming. Here's what I remember. I questioned God a lot. I didn't curse him. I kept my faith in 1996. But I also did not worship him. I didn't have the attitude of "the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Praise the name of the Lord." No. What I did was I just started to feel numb to everything. And I let the accuser convince me. Of course, all of this is happening to you, Ginger. Look at the sin in your life. Look at all the times you failed God. He can't use you for kingdom purposes. You've done too many things wrong and you have too much shame. You'll never overcome all of this to be useful. You're worthless, so stop trying. And I did. I stopped trying to plant seeds. I stopped trying to live for God. I stopped desiring to be in His will. And I stopped for 20 years. 2 decades. And God allowed it. Not because God was punishing me, but I feel now that something was going on that was bigger than my circumstances, and that I was part of a battle that's been going on for ages. things I will not fully understand on this earth. Why? Because He is God. He is all-knowing. He knew that my faith would be shaped by pain and tragedy and grief. He knows that sometimes pain exposes our doubts. He knew that even though Satan would make me think that he took 20 years of my life, God would start using those 20 years to grow me and also multiply me in my future time for His purposes and plans to share Him and to serve Him. When Satan intended to harm me and paralyze me, God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, even right here in this moment, with you reading the Bible every day, reading the exact same passages that I have been reading in Job right now in this very word that I'm giving you. I know now that God gets the final say, not the deceiver. Satan, the deceiver, the accuser, he wants you to think it's too late. He wants you to think you're out of time. He wants you to think you've lost too much and you'll never get it back. He wants you to put all your focus on the things that hurt you and just get stuck there in that pain. But God, the Redeemer, the Alpha and Omega, He wants you to know that He's doing a new thing. He wants you to know that He never stops pursuing you. He wants you to know that He never counts you as useless. He wants you to know that His timing is not our timing and to trust Him, and that nothing is ever wasted. My most favorite book in the Bible is John 16:33. Jesus says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Suffering is real. Pain is real. Grief is real. And now I know something I wish I'd known back in 1996. All of my actions, all of them, should bring glory to God. I do want to be a person who responds like Job and say, I'm going to glorify God in the midst of this. And I want to gain my strength from God in every storm. And when I'm going through my next storm, I want to get still before God and confess, God, I don't know what you talked about or what's happening in the heavenly court, but I trust you. And then I'm going to ask God for wisdom and His power so that I can glorify Him with my words and my actions and point people to Jesus. Job's story continues. You know, you've been reading it with me. It got worse. Satan was allowed to afflict Job. But Job still brought glory to God through his circumstances. I challenge you to read the book of Job if you haven't. I feel like you have, and that's why you're watching this. And ask God to reveal to you what He wants you to know. As I told you, I consider this message that I'm bringing you my God had conversations about me story. And I also feel that you have a God had conversations about you story. So what's yours? What have you faced and endured? How were you tested? Maybe you're being tested right now. This is your testimony. But really, this is your opportunity to worship God through the midst of it. I encourage you, friends, if you're in a fog right now, if you're in a place where you feel you're being tested, if you're just hits after hits after hits, Rise up out of that fall. Remove that numbness. God has had a conversation about you and considers you His. He is for you and not against you. I know fully it feels the other way. And He knows the plans He has for you, and His purposes will avail. Job 42:12 says, "So the Lord blessed Job in the second half of his life even more than in the beginning." I'm living in that place right now. I'm not giving another 20 years to Satan. I'm giving the rest of my life to God, and I want to glorify Him in the midst of everything. It's not easy, but I've been down the other path, and that was way worse. Just being numb to the world, not sharing Jesus, not sharing my testimony, just existing. I didn't enjoy it. I trust God. And I admit that I have no idea what God has talked about today. But I trust that He knows me and He loves me. And I pray that all that I think, say, and do goes to glorify God for the rest of my days. And I ask God to give us all the strength to worship in the good and the bad, so that our lives point others to Jesus. I love you guys. I would love to hear your story. Take care.